Mortal Kombat's invasion of Hollywood has begun. The journey started in the early 1990s when Williams Bally Midway created the world's most successful video game. And that was just the beginning. Threshold Entertainment and New Line Cinema teamed to produce the direct-to-video animated special Mortal Kombat: The Journey Begins. The Mortal Kombat live tour opens in September. Mortal Kombat is on the internet. A CD-ROM, The Ultimate Guide to Mortal Kombat, will hit stores this fall. Then, Williams Bally Midway signed Threshold Entertainment, headed by film producer Larry Kasanoff of Terminator 2 and True Lies, to bring Mortal Kombat to the big screen.
The challenge in realizing the vision of Mortal Kombat and in making this movie was to find the best special effects artists in the world, to gather the best martial artists who had ever been gathered for a film before, and to take all those people halfway around the world to remote southern Thailand to make this movie.
Producer Kasanoff and New Line Cinema assembled a team that includes rising British director Paul Anderson, associate producer and special effects supervisor Alison Savage, who coordinated visual effects on several of Hollywood's top-grossing FX movies in the past decade, including Terminator 2 and Dracula, the masked cinematographer John Leonetti, and a diverse cast featuring international star Christopher Lambert from Greystoke in the Highlander films as Lord Raiden, Hong Kong martial arts star Robin Shou as Liu Kang, Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa, whose credits include Rising Sun and The Last Emperor as Shang Tsung, Wyatt Earp's Lyndon Ashby as Johnny Cage, Bridget Wilson of Last Action Hero as Sonya Blade, and Talisa Soto from Don Juan DeMarco and The Doors as Princess Katana. Filmmakers had the job of creating a mystical universe, complete with supernatural characters and unexplainable phenomenon.
Scorpion and Sub-Zero. The deadliest of enemies, but slaves under my power.
Within this mystical universe, three ordinary individuals searching for self-empowerment collide with superpowered beings in an ancient tournament known as Mortal Kombat.
The story of Mortal Kombat is based on true Oriental myths and legends. It's a story about normal people like you or I who are tapped on the shoulder by fate and taken on a mystical, wild adventure.
Mortal Kombat: Behind the Dragon will return in a moment. Free for Super NES, Sega Genesis, Game Gear, and Game Boy is coming home Mortal Friday, October 13th, 1995. Mortal Kombat: Behind the Dragon.
Our goal in Mortal Kombat, where you see characters who use martial arts to overcome great obstacles, was to make you believe that they truly had the skills that the script called for. To accomplish that, we either cast world champion martial artists in the roles, or we trained the actors in martial arts for several months before they started filming. In fact, each actor had to audition twice, once for the speaking part of the role and once for his or her athletic ability. We have gathered for this movie more and better martial artists than have ever been gathered for an American film.
The goal of showing lengthy, realistic martial arts sequences has rarely been attempted in Hollywood movies. As a result of this strategic decision, filmmakers faced many obstacles in presenting these authentic battles. To solve this problem, producers hired ninth-degree black belt master and world karate champion Pat Johnson and his colleague Barbara Goldstone, a sixth-degree black belt in Tang Sudo, as choreographers. Johnson designed most of the film's key fights. He's choreographed top-grossing martial arts films, including The Karate Kid and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series.
Pat Johnson is simply the best fight choreographer and the most successful fight choreographer in the history of the movie business. And he said he'd kick my butt if I didn't say that.
The martial arts are really the last bastion, one of the last bastions of respect and discipline in this whole world.
The fight sequences in Mortal Kombat vary greatly in style, intensity, and duration. Johnson choreographed the battles based on the creative and physical abilities of the individual characters.
Martial arts are just that, they're art forms. And art forms are individual expressions. So the characters themselves help me, because when they set a character, then I try to develop the art form around that character.
Johnson's influence started long before the production began, when he required actors to go through months of intensive training.
I really, truly enjoyed this. I mean, waking up, every single day and having a session, it was wonderful. I really felt like this is how maybe fighters feel when they're training for the big fight.
I didn't have to train. I was lucky. I've got the superpowers. It was great. It's fun.
Filmmakers faced the major challenge of finding a lead actor who possesses both martial arts expertise and acting ability. They found their solution in Hong Kong martial arts star Robin Shou. Shou, an international champion in Wushu martial arts, plays one of the film's main characters, Liu Kang. Liu is a fighter who has rejected the ancient ways of his people, but now finds destiny luring him into the legendary tradition of Mortal Kombat. His skill and determination helped decide the outcome of the tournament.
I want to fight in this Mortal Kombat tournament because I wanted revenge for my brother.
Working with Robin Shou was really delightful. I can put a camera on there, and you can see him do it, and you can see Robin's face, you can see the wall, you can see him run up, and you can see him kick somebody in the head, and you think, wow, that guy can do it.
Producer Larry Kasanoff asked Shou to fill in as fight coordinator when Johnson became unavailable. The actor, though a martial arts expert, had choreographed in Hong Kong, but never in Hollywood. He rose to the challenge and created two of the film's most exciting and intense battles.
We are asking you to believe that the characters in our movie can defeat any obstacle. And in order to do that, they use the best martial arts we hope you've ever seen.
Shou's work on the Scorpion Cage and Liu Kang reptile fights matched Johnson's philosophy.
I did choreograph most of my fight in the movie. Pat's done movies for years, and I have a background in Hong Kong action movies. And I think by joining together, we created something really, really different.
Shou, who received much of his training in China, is hardly the only fighter in the film with elite credentials. Francois Petit, a world champion in jiu-jitsu, plays Sub-Zero. Chris Casamassa, former world karate champion, portrays Scorpion. And Keith Cook, a U.S. Wushu champion, plays Reptile. Furthermore, all Outworld warrior fighters in the film are among the world's top-ranked martial artists in a variety of disciplines.
Hi. Johnny Cage, you are?
Liu Kang is not alone in the fight to defend humanity through Mortal Kombat. The burden also falls on egotistical Johnny Cage, played by Lyndon Ashby. Ashby portrays a spoiled movie star who is among the most talented martial artists in the world, possessing his patented move, the shadow kick. Angered by critics who call him a fake, Cage enters the tournament in search of glory.
I think that every character you do, there's an element of yourself in there.
You guys were lucky you stopped us.
I surfed and worked out and boxed and did all kinds of sports, always have. But doing this film, it just gave me an opportunity to really concentrate on working out. I mean, we were 2 months every day, 5 hours a day in the gym.
It was not like anything I've ever done before. I mean, my other movies, I got in shape by drinking beer and smoking cigarettes.
Beautiful and deadly, Sonya Blade completes the trio of human fighters lured into the tournament. Blade is a U.S. Special Forces agent pursuing Kano, who killed her partner. Shang Tsung uses Kano as bait to force Sonya into Mortal Kombat.
We had someone in our office, actually, she walked in for an audition, and he said, who was that Robo Babe? And that was like the thing that really stuck afterwards. I think she's terrific, and I think it's a, again, it's a hard role to bring to life. To actually find a woman who can both be very attractive and also very believable in action scenes, it's a tough thing to do.
you're so focused that you could do it for an hour and a half and be sweating, and you don't realize it till it's over. Because you really get into this mindset. And working with Pat and Barbara, they teach you to become in a fighter's mind. You step inside that. So you kind of step out of yourself, step into this mode, and you become really, really focused.
Staging the fight scenes was especially difficult because the script called for unusual multi-tiered otherworldly sets, even though fights are normally staged on flat sets built for ease of movement. Filmmakers faced the task of combining these two crucial elements. To accomplish this, they created special cameras and designed extremely complicated lighting rigs. Bringing together the most diverse group of world champion martial artists ever gathered for a film inevitably causes clashes of style. Shu's crucial fight with Shang Tsung, played by Kari Tagawa, is a key example. Important changes implemented by the two actors resulted in some of the film's most exciting moments.
I told him, you know, Kari, if I hit you, but of course with control force, it's gonna look so cool on film. Just in the spirit of the film, I thought it might be interesting. It turned out well.
The bottom line of this movie is that it contains great actors giving great performances who also kick some really serious butt.
Fatality.
What's the best way to show audiences mystical, exotic, ancient, otherworldly places? Answer, find those places and go there. Following an exhaustive global search to pinpoint the perfect sites to film exterior scenes, producers took the crew and equipment halfway around the world to remote corners of Thailand.
And action!
We sent scouts all over the world when we were starting Mortal Kombat. We went to every country in Southeast Asia, most countries in South America, and countries in Central America. The interesting thing about Thailand was, other than the fact that it was beautiful and gorgeous, exactly what we imagined, what we thought up when we were writing the script, is here. This is the ancient capital of Ayutthaya, which was one of the early capitals of the Thai Empire. There were 1,700 of these. These are one of the few that are left. And the place and the looks and the nooks and crannies and the feel of it is like what we wrote. It's like in the story. It's incredible.
Exotic Thailand may have been perfect for portraying the look of the movie, but it was a tough place to shoot a major motion picture. Remote locations, a tight schedule, and foreign crews unused to the frenzied pace of American filmmaking imposed new difficulties on the production. To help solve those problems and provide a unique creative vision for the film, Kasanoff picked a young risk-taking director for Mortal Kombat, 29-year-old Paul Anderson, whose first feature, Shopping, a film about wild, car-stealing British kids, impressed the producer.
Mortal Kombat, all its prior incarnations, and what we hope for the movie, has always been young and hip and cutting edge and cool. Therefore, to direct it, we needed to find someone with the same qualities. We found Paul Anderson in England. He directed one film, which I thought had the qualities we were looking for. It was kinetic, it was fast, it was energetic, and it was really hip and cool. We thought the combination of Paul's talents with the story we were trying to tell would make for the kind of movie we want you to go see.
I think one of the biggest challenges was designing a world and an environment for those characters to inhabit, you know, for a world to surround the tournament, because what we didn't want to do was produce imagery that had been in other films. We really wanted to give the film a really fresh, exciting, vivid, new look.
B. Marco!
There's a real beauty to nature, and there's a beauty to buildings that were constructed 1,000 years ago that have been falling apart ever since. And it's very hard, if not impossible, to recreate that. And that's why we went to Thailand. We went to go get those landscapes. And the reason why we went to Thailand rather than anywhere else was that in Ayutthaya, where we filmed the temples, where we filmed where the Order of Light is based, I've never seen those temples put on film. I've never seen them done in a Western movie in the way we did them. And that's very exciting as a filmmaker in this day and age, to be able to go and get a canvas that's that big, that's so huge, to film these fantastic old temples. It's like finding the Taj Mahal and then somebody saying, well, actually, no one's ever taken a photograph of it. You know, it's like that. You think, wow, you know, this is virgin territory. And it's very exciting to find that.
Filmmakers were struck by the haunting beauty of the remote beaches in the Thai region of Krabi, where they filmed the scenes on Shang Tsung's island. Oddly shaped limestone spires jutting out of the sea hundreds of feet into the air near Krabi made it clear to producers they had discovered a unique location. It was hardly a paradise, however, when it came to details of movie making. Few facilities, access only by boat, the threat of bad weather and language barriers all made the shoot a harrowing one. But Thailand had even more to offer. Ancient temples in the central Thai region of Ayutthaya formed the backdrop for the Temple of the Order of Light, where the film's key opening sequence takes place. There, modern technology combined with ancient architecture resulted in a strange dichotomy.
So the mystery and excitement and danger and adventure that is the movie is the feeling that we get here and is what seems to be going on with the crew and the people.
Ours is not the only plane of existence. In the dark, foul place known as Outworld, the evil sorcerer Shang Tsung carries out the corrupt work of his master, Outworld's emperor. Veteran actor Cary Tagawa portrays the black-souled master, Shang Tsung.
Shang Tsung is mystical and magical, but also has that aspect of being very human. We're looking at a human being who, through power, has been misled, misguided. So he's a god of sorts, and he definitely gets his due.
Ayutthaya was the capital of the ancient Thai Empire, where warriors died trying to defend the temples seen in Mortal Kombat. The location impacted the film's creative process. Cary Tagawa was so absorbed in his role of Shang Tsung that local Thai children watching filming of the movie's opening scene became frightened and ran away. Tagawa wasn't the only one influenced by his surroundings. Raiden is a god with a sense of inner peace that Christopher Lambert says was easy to emulate amidst the ancient Thai ruins.
You walk in a place like that, there's something to do with respect, that you immediately want to respect, want to cherish what you're seeing around you because it's so beautiful. And, you know, just the fact that you're not in your country motivates that much more. And, you know, just out of respect for the people, for what you're seeing, you just want to keep the place the way it was before you came in. You want to have the feeling that the people had 400 years ago, and you want to keep that in mind. And it's very appeasing.
Despite all the obstacles thrown in their way, the experienced Mortal Kombat crew handled the rigors of the Thailand shoot. The location scenes worked exactly as filmmakers had envisioned.
It was this wonderful place called the Duset Beach in Thailand, which was, it was the most magnificent beach we ever visited on the location recce, and I just knew this had to be the beach on Shang Tsung's island. And everybody, when we landed there on the boat, the location manager, the line producer, everyone was saying, don't pick this beach, because the only way to get there was by boat. Sure enough, it's the beach we really wanted. We went there, we shot there. It meant that we had to bring everything in by boat. And because the shore went out quite a way, it was we couldn't get a big boat in, so we had to get the crew to carry all the equipment from a large ferry boat to the beach every day in the morning. It was just exceptional watching all this happen, you know, seeing like 100 people in the water carrying equipment over their heads onto the beach. It was like seeing some kind of major invasion. And then, of course, because we didn't have any generators, as soon as it started to get dark, we had to pack up, and there was this huge frenzy to get the stuff back on the boat, otherwise we'd been stuck, kind of pitch dark, on this beach in the middle of nowhere.
Go ahead, just do anything.
Thailand, where it's above 100 degrees, and we're fighting on sand, which is not a leveled ground. So everything that you choreographed and you worked on was 10 times harder because the heat was so draining, and your balance was off. So it was a lot of hard work. I mean, I didn't realize how hard it was. I mean, I really got it down here in America, and an air-conditioned place, you know, solid floors, and when it was over, there was a whole different story.
We're having an adventure being here. The look, the place, the feel, the people, it's so far away from home. It's such another world. We're in such a foreign, strange location. And it's the kind of place that only exists here. This is unique.
Robin Shu's Hong Kong films have made him a well-known star in Asia. And at times during the Thailand shoot, children mobbed him, seeking his autograph. But even Thailand couldn't provide everything the film needed. A place like Outworld, for instance, simply doesn't exist. At least not in this particular dimension. Meaning filmmakers had yet another challenge ahead of them. During the film's planning stages, there was talk about trying to find locations to stage scenes in Scorpion's lair, the bowels of Outworld, or the Emperor's Fortress. Thus, designers went about creating some of this year's most ambitious sets. The spectacular fight sequences, Goro's throne room, Shang Tsung's lair, the giant banquet hall, and many other scenes were shot in huge facilities in and around Los Angeles.
One of the biggest challenges was designing a world and an environment for those characters to inhabit, you know, for a world to surround the tournament. Because what we didn't want to do was produce imagery that had been in other films. We really wanted to give the film a really fresh, exciting, vivid, new look.
Each time I was walking on the set, I mean, it was beyond what I could have imagined or the expectation. I mean, it was really pretty amazing.
The Los Angeles shoot was closer to home, but no less arduous. With the film's hectic schedule and non-stop search for creative excellence, ambitious ideas had to be put into effect immediately. Following guidelines set down by filmmakers, they sketched out their designs onto storyboards, which then served as the basis of the final product.
We spent a long time in pre-production designing the sets, and basically the rule of thumb was the designer would come to me with designs of what the set would look like, what the characters' costumes would be like, what the landscapes, the map paintings would be like, and if it was something we'd seen before, if it really reminded us of another film, we'd throw it away and start again.
I remember walking in the statuary garden, and it was like a different world.
The statuary garden on Shang Tsung's island honors the memories of former Mortal Kombat warriors throughout the centuries, both from our world and other realms. Filmmakers had to design detailed statues to portray a variety of these past combatants. The set that presented the biggest challenge was Scorpion's lair. Designers created a complicated, multi-tiered set, which allowed Scorpion and Johnny Cage to fight on different levels in Scorpion's horrific death realm. The fight begins in a Thailand rubber tree plantation and continues in Scorpion's lair. Robin Shu worked with designer Mick Strawn on the concept, which is based on Shu's knowledge of ancient Tibetan burial practices.
A long time ago in Tibet, people bury their families or relatives like at levels, because the reason for that was the higher you go, the closer to heaven you get.
That's where we got the idea of the bamboo and the idea of the wrapped mummies, and we just kind of went with that and put it into a limbo, so it just went on forever.
The Scorpion set is like nothing I've ever seen before in a movie. It's absolutely incredible. It's huge.
The design was so ambitious, producers had to rent a massive airplane hangar. Defying normal set design procedures, filmmakers created the set on a giant scaffold with no walls, built all the way to the roof of the hangar. The multi-level design meant additional logistical strains for filmmakers already on tight deadlines.
It was so difficult that it became kind of funny. We designed the set that looks completely amazing and was a complete nightmare to film in.
The way that you would normally build anything is from the ground up, and that's what common logic tells you to do. But in this case, we didn't have anything involved in it that had any structural integrity. So what we essentially had to do is go 65 feet up into the grid of the ceiling and start, in a forced perspective, just start building this up in the ceiling and working our way back down to the ground.
To shoot the complicated fight scene, filmmakers used specially designed cameras that allowed them to portray the two warriors spinning from one level to the next. The decision to use the set paid off. The Cage-Scorpion fight is one of the most stunning moments in the film.
Get down here!
Despite their mysterious look, all the sets needed to have an air of realism. Just as they derived inspiration from their Thai surroundings, so too did many actors find themselves absorbed into the essence of Mortal Kombat each time they set foot on the LA sets.
I remember the first night I arrived on set for Outworld. And it was so exciting because, you know, you read it, you create your own little world in your mind, and to actually arrive there and to see the set. And it was so fabulous. Just walking through the streets of Outworld, I felt like, okay, you know, this is Outworld.
The mystery and beauty embodied in the sets are also perfectly personified in the character of Princess Kitana. Exotic, beautiful, the 10,000-year-old rightful heiress to Outworld's throne, and the only Outworlder brave enough to oppose Shang Tsung. Kitana guides the humans through Outworld's rotting underbelly into a secret world of danger and adventure. Filmmakers wanted a multicultural, haunting look for Kitana to emphasize the mysterious look of Outworld, and they selected one of Hollywood's most exotic beauties, Lisa Soto.
I love the fact that the role of Princess Kitana demanded a great martial artist. She's considered to be one of the best in Outworld. So I knew I was facing a challenge.
The huge interior sets created problems for director of photography John Leonetti and his film and lighting crews on a daily basis. Leonetti's team faced the task of lighting the movie with color combinations that, in some cases, have never been seen before on film.
I saw this picture that had purple light and yellow in it. And I went, that's really cool. And I've never been to a place like that, or seen a place like that that existed in reality. So it just hit me. I just said, that's it.
Perhaps the film and lighting crew's most impressive work was the lighting job done at an abandoned steel mill in Fontana, California, which was used as the blighted, nasty central portion of Outworld.
The really big exteriors for Outworld were the biggest challenges because when you're in a studio, at least everything is controllable. I mean, Outworld was vast, and we were actually in a location where we'd built additional things.
To represent the complete destruction of Outworld by the Emperor's dark forces, the crew built huge gargoyle statues and shattered stone heads throughout the devastated ruins. Experimental lighting techniques completed the strategy.
It's the biggest lighting job I've ever done in my career.
The lighting job was so massive it could be seen for miles and spooked a few pilots at the nearby Ontario airport.
I remember people were talking about Outworld, and it was so spectacular that pilots landing at night when we were shooting over there were asking the tower if they were still on Earth.
They were scared. They were freaked, like, what is this?
The scene was digitally enhanced to create the mystical look of Outworld. Heightening the tension on the sets was the presence of the four-armed warrior prince of Shokan, Goro, who portrays himself in the film.
I think Goro probably caused me more heartaches with the other actors than any other actor on the set.
Goro.
Some of the fights shot in Los Angeles appear to be so real that filmmakers won't discuss them publicly, particularly the fights involving Goro.
I can't talk about Goro. It was in his contract, and he said I couldn't, and it's just something we don't talk about. Sorry.
You're here to compete in Mortal Kombat.
One of you three will decide the outcome of the tournament.
It has begun!
Mortal Kombat Behind the Dragon will return in a moment. Back to Mortal Kombat Behind the Dragon.
In this unique environment, filmmakers were challenged with creating a universe that does not exist and characters with abilities that could only come to life digitally.
Everything kind of has been done before, and what we're really pushing to try and do is do different things.
The biggest challenge in the film in terms of special effects was how to bring the characters' familiar signature moves to the big screen in keeping with the Mortal Kombat premise.
We had to create characters 100% digitally in the computer, and we had to create backgrounds 100% digitally in the computer, and we had to make them seamlessly intercut with the rest of the movie. We had to make things that never exist exist for you?
The plan was to show the most unique variety of visual effects ever seen before in a movie, and there was no way to bring it to life other than the visual effects.
Action! It has begun!
Leading the journey to accomplish this goal was the film's associate producer and FX supervisor, Allison Savage, whose credits include Terminator 2, The Shadow, Last Action Hero, Dracula, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Kasanoff and Savage first worked together on Terminator 2.
Allison Savage is the best visual effects supervisor in the world. I brought Allison onto the movie as visual effects supervisor, but also asked her to be associate producer of the film. That's because her talent for blending effects in a story is so unusual and was such an integral part of this film. The film would not be what it is if it weren't for Allison.
Mortal Kombat was without a doubt the most ambitious visual effects film I'd ever done, because there are 200 effects and they're all different. When you have a movie that has, 50 shots, but they're all the same kind of shot, that's easy. But 200 different shots, keeping people going, seeing something different every time is a real undertaking. But it makes for an amazing film.
The effects process posed major challenges not only for the technical people, but also for the actors. After all, how do you act with someone or something that doesn't really exist?
Robin Shou, for example, who plays Liu Kang, is walking down the streets of Outworld and has to pretend he's struggling with an imaginary creature. Well, he's struggling with Reptile, but of course Reptile hadn't even been created, and he is, of course, a computer-generated character. So he had to pull nothing out of the wall and struggle with it as if it was going to attack him, as if he was fighting for his life.
So then you just kind of have to grab the space here, and it's pretty hard because, like, you have to pretend something that is there, but then is not there. So then you just have to use a lot of imagination.
What are you doing?
It was a bold choice to create Reptile as a completely computer-rendered character with a considerable amount of screen time.
There's a point in the movie where our heroes go to a statuary garden, and when you're watching the movie, you see that it's full of these huge granite and marble statues, and it was our job to bring one of those statues to life. And actually, it's made of styrofoam, and it only weighs about 200 pounds, so we could actually take it to our offices and use it as a reference and model a copy of it in the computer. When we model it in the computer, it ends up looking something like this. This is a wireframe representation of the creature, and what we can do is use computer software to move it around. It doesn't actually exist except in the computer, but we can make it move in any way that we want to, and the image of that creature will appear on the movie screen when we're finished. When we first begin doing our computer animation, it looks gray, plain, shaded, the way that you see now. One of the things that we had to do first was decide what it was going to look like when it was actually colored like a chameleon, like a lizard. This is a computer representation of the head of the reptile. Here you can see his eyes. These actually appear on either side of his head. This area here runs over the top of his head. These are the stripes that run along his spine. I think these are his nostrils, although in this format, it's actually difficult to imagine that this could possibly wrap around and form a head.
Reptile is a chameleon-type character that is a servant to Shang Tsung. And he follows people around, he's an annoyance, he keeps people apart for Shang Tsung. And the difficulty about Reptile is, because he's a chameleon, he blends into his different environments, but we have him in, a dozen different environments. So every time he picks up a different background, we have to figure out what would look best in that different environment. So as much as it's conceptually the same effect, it's different every time we see it.
He's kind of an interesting combination between, like, one of the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, that kind of lizard feel, and some weird kind of alien creature that has this power to blend in, to disguise himself. I think that what that gives us is a sense that Reptile could be anywhere in the movie.
One of the toughest characters to create was the deadly ninja Scorpion.
I'd like to say that there was one character that was the most difficult, but really they all had their own individual challenges. Scorpion, for example. Originally, we shot a sequence in the rubber tree plantation in Thailand.
I tell you what I see all the cups at the base of the trees.
The character's signature move in the film is a creature that comes out of his hand. We talked about creating the scorpion effect with a physical model that you could see and that the actors could interact with. This might have been easier in the shooting process, but ultimately, this would have limited us to a simpler look and movement style. With the digital creature, our bounds were limitless.
The scorpion, of course, is contained within the character scorpion's hand. How does something emerge from someone's hand? What would it look like? So we had to design that. We had to create that concept. We had to, oh my goodness, well, we put a slit in his hand. The character comes out of his hand. How would that look?
This is a model that we proposed for the scorpion creature, the actual projectile that flies through the air. You can see here that it's just made of a kind of a gray plastic, but when it's represented in the computer, we're going to give it a kind of a real lethal-looking gunmetal kind of a look to it. These blue lines are the actor's hand as stored in the computer. The white lines are the scorpion. That's the way the computer sees the scorpion. Now, what we do is we take it from these lines into a kind of a shaded format, and this is the first step in that process. When you're doing animation, one of the things that you really want to do is you want to bring something to life. You want to give it a personality. In this particular instance, we wanted to give it more than a personality. We wanted to give it an attitude.
If you need the effect, then you do it, but you don't just create an effect to impress the audience. It's got to be part of the story, and that's the case in this one.
Take what the effects companies give us and say, that's nice, that's good, that would be good enough for other films, it's not good enough for us.
There's nothing more gratifying than going to an effects facility, knowing exactly what you have in your head and thinking you're going to see it and that would be wonderful, seeing something even better than what you had imagined, and that happened on almost every occasion.
The Thai locations and LA sets still couldn't portray all the mystery of Outworld, so the effects team was called upon to take us into that strange alternate universe.
It was important to give Outworld scope. We shot Outworld in a vast, unfinished area, only a small portion of which had the lighting, set dressing, and look we were going for. We had to make it appear as if this otherworldliness went on forever, with a black tower at the end of the road looming over this entire area. None of this could possibly exist in reality, so what we did is created a completely computer-generated environment.
This is Outworld, huh? Well, I can see why they want to change the scenery.
Outworld was vast, and we were actually in a location where we'd built additional things. We were having to light a huge stretch of land out in the desert where we shot. I mean, this thing was like a logistical nightmare. Everyone who came down to the set said, you know, this was the biggest lighting job they'd ever seen.
Transporting humans to Outworld called for a method as mysterious and technically complicated as Outworld itself. The ghostly Dragon's Wing, Shang Tsung's ship.
What is that?
Filmmakers needed to create a seamless transition, showing the human warriors leaving the mainland and entering the mystical world of Mortal Kombat. In reality, it is a delicate piece of digital handiwork, which places an ancient galleon in a real port without ever touching the water.
It's not even real water. It's obviously a fake reflection of the boat. So this entire section here has been created using some 2D tricks, basically. The clouds were actually, or the fog, I should say, was actually moved over. It was duplicated from this area and moved over here and made to interact with the boat through, again, some various 2D compositing tricks. So you get the final frame. A good comparison of this final frame would be to the original background plate, where you could see how much has changed. So this is the original plate with almost nothing in it, and this is the final version.
Christopher Lambert's Raiden, the god of thunder and lightning, is an explosive presence throughout the film. His digitally created eyes glow and crackle, and he attacks with lightning.
Raiden's special power is lightning. It's difficult to make lightning look different than something we've seen before. What we did is used different shapes, different colors that you wouldn't normally equate with electricity, put energy, power into them, allowed them to take shape when Raiden is, say, materializing and dematerializing.
The first time I saw Raiden dematerializing, I mean, it's pretty impressive because he's glowing with electricity. His eyes are glowing. He can throw thunder through his fingers, and then you see this ball of electricity flying around, and suddenly, whew, there comes Raiden. And it's pretty, I mean, the effect is pretty amazing.
Enough!
By the time they arrive at Shang Tsung's island, the humans need Raiden's guidance. A dark and frightening place, the island serves as a backdrop for the Mortal Kombat tournament. Transforming a Thai peninsula into Shang's island lair was no simple feat for the effects team.
What we did to create Shang Tsung's island, which of course was not originally an island, it's a peninsula with very rounded peaks that we made look scarier and more ominous by extending with a digital map painting. There were, of course, unfortunately, boats when we were shooting that day, so we got rid of the boats. We put our own Dragon's Wing ship in so you can see where the actors are coming from, and created an island that didn't even exist.
Shang Tsung's ability to steal souls of vanquished warriors is a crucial story element and an extremely difficult effect to demonstrate.
Shang Tsung's special move is soul stealing. So the challenge was we had to get across to the audience that when Shang Tsung steals a soul, he leaves the body lifeless, sucks the life out of them, and that's what empowers him. That's what charges Shang Tsung. That's actually what keeps him young, because of course he's 10,000 years old.
Your soul is mine. No!
The human warriors had to contend with another villainous creature, Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero's special move is he freezes people. So what we had to figure out is, first of all, he has a cold ball that he throws at people in the movie. That's what we chose to do, and of course that freezes people. But we had to figure out is what it looks like when he absorbs the cold, because of course he has to draw the cold in first before he throws it and freezes people. What would that look like? What we decided is sort of like he freezes atmosphere and draws that in. And of course, then he has a cold ball that expands and of course freezes everything in its path.
I think the strongest effects in the movie, we knew what they were going to be 2 years ago, because when we actually came up with the ideas, we went, wow, that is a really cool, interesting idea. And sure enough, those are always the strongest things in the movie.
We gathered a dozen of the top digital effects facilities in Los Angeles, representing hundreds and hundreds of people who literally worked round the clock for months to realize the several hundred digital effect shots you see in this movie. I've been fortunate enough to work in some really successful, really big movies. The experience of bringing this to the screen, the people we met, the challenge in making it, and the vision that we realized made Mortal Kombat the most fun and the most rewarding movie I've ever worked on by a long shot.
Flawless victory.
Now back to Mortal Kombat Behind the Dragon.
I think that they'll walk out of the theater, and I think that they'll have had a hell of a ride.
It has begun!
It's an action movie, but you know, even more than that, it's an adventure movie.
You gotta be kidding me.
We will have taken them somewhere that they don't go every day.
This is a great action movie. Great martial artist movie.
These are the most amazing fight scenes. I've never seen a fight scene like this before. And I think to do something that original, something that kind of nail-biting, is really what we set out to do.
We're set.
And action!
Yeah, it's a cut!
I gotta do something. Oh, no way!
I'm going back again.
I want them to say, I just had an absolute blast.
They're going to be saying, I want to see it again. That's what I hope. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.